Hey guys, it is April from Getting Huggo With It. Today is the last day of the Sweet Winter Read series. It happened quickly, but I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. And today we're going to end off talking about magical books. I've got 5 books here that are middle grade. I think just some of the most magical and fantastical kinds of books that I've read have been middle grade, and there are some classics in here and some that you'll know very, very well. So let's get into it. I should just address the most obvious magical book first before I move on to the others, and that is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is the first in the series. Honestly, the entire series is incredibly magical, but there's something about the first book that just, well, it sucked you into the entire world and made you want to read all of the others. And I just loved it. This is about a little boy named Harry who is an orphan. He lives with his very crummy, curmudgeon-y aunt and uncle and his very annoying cousin Dudley. And he discovers that he is a wizard, and he goes to the wizarding school of Hogwarts, and it is the most magical school. It really is. The entire book is magical when Hagrid comes and gets him and brings him to Diagon Alley. I think that is still my favorite scene of all of Harry Potter. It was just so magical. The Christmas scenes are incredibly magical. It's just such a good book. If you haven't read Harry Potter yet, I know you're one of those people that are like, everybody just, goes on about it, and so there's that little part inside of you that's just like, I'm going to avoid reading it. There's a reason that there's such a big love for this book. So yes, that's the first one. I had to include that. The second book is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. Now, Philip Pullman just recently came out with La Belle Sauvage, or The Book of Dust, and that is a prequel to The Golden Compass and The Golden Compass trilogy. But I started with The Golden Compass, and I read this actually at Queen's in a children's literature class and fell madly in love. In this book we follow Lyra, and she lives at Oxford in an orphaned ward, and suddenly 2 very powerful characters show up in her life. One of them is her uncle, and his name is Lord Asriel, and he shows up at Oxford and he brings with him these photographs of this mysterious thing that's going on in the north, and he calls it dust. And he also sees like this outline of a city in the Northern Lights, and he thinks that it's like an alternate universe. And then another character that shows up is Mrs. Coulter, and she really befriends Lyra, and yet there's something a little bit off about her. Lyra receives this truth-telling gadget, and it's called an alethiometer, and she uses it to her advantage throughout this book. It's such a magical book. Humans have something called daemons, which are animals that kind of reflect who you are. When you become an adult, they become a particular animal and they don't change. So you might have a dog, or you might have a lynx. But as a child, your daemon will change shapes, and they'll change different species. So one day it might be a rat, and then one day it might be a parrot, and it's only until you become an adult that they actually stay one animal and one species. If you haven't read The Golden Compass yet, please do. It's absolutely amazing. Next is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Angle. This is about a family who one evening, it's this dark and stormy night, and suddenly a stranger shows up and explains to them that their father has gone missing. Now, their father has been studying the 5th dimension, and he's gone missing, and now the family needs to save him. And I read this a long time ago, and I think it's high time for me to reread this book. I haven't actually read any of the others in the series. By the way, it is a series if you didn't know, and I'd really like to do that. Next is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. We follow 4 children, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. Now they're staying at this very old house with a professor. Now Lucy discovers a wardrobe in this old house, and as she's going through the wardrobe, it leads her to another world called Narnia, and here she meets Mr. Tumnus, and she goes to his home for tea, and she has a lovely time. And eventually the entire family go to Narnia and they have many, many adventures there. Now this is actually the second in a series, but I think it's the most well-known of the entire series, and I think it's the most magical. So yes, that is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And finally, I wanted to recommend The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien wrote this for young children. He didn't write this for adults, and yet I think most people have read this like later in life, which is a shame. I read this, I think I was 14, so even I was too old at that point, but I really liked it, and you can read it at any age. But this follows Bilbo Baggins and Gandalf, a wizard, and Bilbo Baggins is a hobbit, and he lives in a little hobbit hole. He has a very, very cozy life, and one day Gandalf, this giant human wizard, shows up at his door and he's like, yeah, so do you want to come with us? We're going to this mountain where this dangerous dragon named Smaug lives, and we're going to get back all of the riches that the dwarves owned that are in this mountain, and do you want to come with us? And at first he's like, no thanks, and then he decides to go along on the journey, and I love this book. So those are my 5 magical books that I think that you would want to read in the winter. It's honestly sometimes really nice to dive back into those childhood favorites. So I hope that you have enjoyed this sweet winter read series. I will be back next week with just some normal regular videos, and I hope you enjoy them. I'll see you later. Bye!